What if the rest of the year felt completely different from how it's gone so far? 1 week from now, it can. In this video, I'm going to show you how to transform the rest of your year in a single week. We start somewhere strange, by letting a few goals die on purpose. Step 1. Cut the dead goal. You open your phone and everyone looks ahead of you. Someone bought the house, someone got the body, someone's business took off, and a quiet voice in you says, "What's the point?" You're already behind. You're not behind because you're slow. You're behind because you're still dragging goals that died months ago. You set a bunch of things in motion in January. 50% of them likely died in March. Since then, you've kept paying for them in guilt every time you look at your list. So the first move is to bury them on purpose. This runs against everything achievement culture preaches, but the research on it is unusually clear. There's research on people stuck on goals they genuinely could not reach. The ones who let go came out measurably better. Lower stress, fewer thoughts circling at night. In one of those studies, the people were parents of a child who was dying. Some held on to a future that was never going to arrive. Others let that hope go and poured everything they had into the time they actually got. The ones who let go carried far less of the grief that was crushing the ones who couldn't. And this isn't only in your head. Holding on to impossible goals wears on the body too. More stress, deteriorating health, and it gets worse the longer you cling to something that's already gone. Letting go of the right goal is a real skill, and it has a second half that matters just as much. You let go, and then you reinvest that freed energy into a goal you can actually reach. Let go without redirecting, and you just feel like you failed. Let go and redirect, and you get relief and momentum in the same move. So here's the work, and it takes about 10 minutes. Write down every goal you're carrying, the live ones and the zombies. Be honest about the one or two that are genuinely dead. Maybe because the circumstances changed, and you don't actually want it anymore. Cross them out, then name where that energy goes instead. You'll feel it inside a couple of days. That background hum of "I'm behind" gets quieter, because half of behind was never speed. It was the weight of things you'd already given up on but never set down. Remember, you don't need more grit. You just need to stop hauling the dead weight. Step 2. Re-anchor the why. You let go of the dead ones, but turn the same honesty on what's left. Some of those goals have a different problem. Here's a familiar one. You set a goal you were sure about. A few months in, the wanting just left. The fire just went out. Most people call that a willpower problem. But the goal ran dry for a different reason. It was never really yours. There's a real difference between a goal you chose and a goal you absorbed. You absorbed earn more. You absorbed flatten the stomach. You absorbed the shape of a life that the people around you agreed was correct. A goal that's genuinely yours pulls from a different place. The effort shows up without the constant negotiation, and you're far more likely to reach it. Reaching them then makes the next goal easier to pursue. It builds into an upward spiral. The borrowed ones do the opposite. They drain. You push through it until you can't, and one day you just stop. So this week, run every surviving goal through one question. If no one ever knew I did this, would I still want it? If the honest answer is yes, the goal stays. It's yours. Otherwise, that's a borrowed goal. And borrowed goals don't survive a hard week. You have 2 moves with those borrowed goals. Cut them, like in step 1, or re-anchor them to something real underneath. For example, get in shape is borrowed. Be able to carry my kid up the stairs at 45 without my knees giving out is yours. Same gym, completely different fuel. Take 10 minutes and write 1 honest line per goal. If you can't write a real reason, you've found another goal to cut. The goals that survive feel chosen. The wanting comes back because this time the reason is real. Step 3. Set the floor, not the ceiling. Now, the goals that survive feel solid. They're real and they're yours. But they were most likely built wrong, and the mistake was there from the very first moment you set them. Picture the moment you set a big goal. There's a rush. You can see the whole finished version. Lean, calm, sorted. It feels fantastic. That rush is the trap. There's a name for it. False hope. It's the gap between how change actually works and how we picture it. We get 4 things wrong every time. How fast it'll happen, how much will actually change, how hard it's going to feel, and how different our life will be at the end. We guess optimistically on all four. So you design the goal for a fantasy version of yourself with endless energy and no bad days. Then a real week arrives. You're tired, work explodes, and a plan built for fantasy, you collapses. The fix is a design move. You stop building for your best day. Instead, you build for your worst one. Every goal gets a floor. The floor is the smallest version that still counts on the day everything goes sideways. Want to get strong? The ceiling is the full hour at the gym. The floor is 10 squats by the kitchen counter. Good day, you aim high. Bad day, you hit the floor, and it still counts. The floor has to be almost embarrassingly small. Small enough that I'm too tired stops working as an excuse, because even tired, you can clear it. Write both numbers for each goal this week, the floor and the ceiling. Most people only ever write the ceiling, which is exactly why a single bad week ends them. The proof comes quickly. The first rough day this week, you'll still clear your floor, and you stay someone who keeps their word, even at your worst. Design, not discipline. The old plan needed a perfect week. This one survives a terrible one. Step 4. Pre-build the next rung. One more design move. This one lives at the finish line. You hit the goal, the thing you wanted, and still you feel almost nothing. A flat, then a strange emptiness. Within a week or two, you've drifted off everything, because the prize turned out to be made of air. You're not broken for feeling that, you just predicted wrong. We're genuinely bad at forecasting our own feelings. We expect hitting the goal to feel enormous and last for ages. It lands smaller and fades faster, almost every time. We forget how quickly we adapt. So we overbuild the finish line in our heads, and then it can't pay what we expected. It hits on arrival too. You expected something to land, but the baseline had already moved. So here's the fix. You build the next rung before you reach the current one. You decide in advance what comes after. So arrival is a step instead of a cliff. For example, the goal isn't lose the 15 pounds, it's lose the 15 pounds, and the day I do, I start training for the hike. Now the number isn't an ending that drops you into emptiness. It's a door you already plan to walk through. One sentence per goal this week. What's the next rung? Write it while you're still climbing, because the clarity won't be there at the top. It takes the pressure off the finish line, which was never going to feel the way you imagined anyway. The goal stops being one dramatic moment you've bet everything on. It becomes a single rung on a ladder you intend to keep climbing. Step 5. Start the ledger. You're in it, doing the work, showing up every day, and the feeling that you're making progress disappears. A voice says, "This isn't even working," and you drift. You probably are making progress, you just can't feel it anymore. Your brain adapts to everything. That's its main job. There's well-known work on people who won large sums in the lottery. Within a year, they'd adapted so completely, they rated their lives about the same as their neighbors who won nothing. And small, everyday pleasures did less for them, because the big win had reset the baseline. Your goals work the same way. Each bit of progress quietly becomes the new normal, so you stop seeing it. The repair is to make progress visible again from the outside. One study combed through thousands of daily work diaries to find the single thing that made a good day feel good. The answer? Visible progress on work that mattered. It showed up on roughly 3 of every 4 of people's best days. The same diaries showed the mirror image. Setbacks hit harder than winds lift. So left to chance, the bad always feels louder. So you stop leaving it to chance. You keep a ledger. Every day this week, write down one thing you actually did toward a goal. The action itself. 10 squats, done. 1 paragraph written. Said no to the thing that drains me. 1 line, 30 seconds. Log the input, not the result, because the result is slow and the input is yours today. Here's why this carries the whole week. On day 7, you read it back. 7 lines. 7 days of evidence that the new design is real and moving. You don't have to believe the rest of the year will be different. You can look at the page and see that this week already was. That's the point where this stops being my argument and becomes your proof. And if you'd rather not build all this from scratch, I put the whole week on a single page. The cut list, the why question, the floors, and a 7-day ledger. It's a free download in the description. So that's the week. 1 sitting to rebuild your goals, then 7 days to watch the new design hold. Every one of these was a flaw in the design. The effort was never the problem. Fix the design, and the rest of your year takes care of itself.